Welcome, mechanical engineering student. So we're going to create this housing fixture part, and as we can see, it's this is a section view, which is shown here. This is section AA, and we noticed a few things. The first thing to notice is we're working in millimeters here. So when we get into the Inventor software, we want to make sure we have the right system of units. So what we're going to end up doing is essentially making this sketch here, but we're going to use a special command known as the Revolve command to create the part. So we actually only have to draw half of this sketch that you see on the right, and then use the Revolve command to create the three-dimensional representation. Once we have that, we can add these three holes. Each one of them has a 3 millimeter diameter, and then there's one more feature we have to add. This part calls for the creation of chamfers at these locations shown here. A chamfer is essentially a feature that is normally present to break a sharp or right angle corner in the part. Let's briefly just discuss the workflow. So we're going to create a 2D sketch, and again, we only have to draw half of the part. We're then going to use the Revolve command, and then add our holes, and then add the chamfers. Okay, so I'm in my Inventor software, and I happen to be using Autodesk Inventor Professional 2020. So click on New to create the new part. At the top, click on Standard Part, and then click Create. And we want to make sure that we have the correct unit system. So we're going to select the Tools tab at the top, Document Settings, Units tab, and on the drop-down menu, select millimeters, and then hit OK. When creating the sketch, select the Sketch tab, Start 2D Sketch, and we always have to sketch on a plane. In this case, we have 3 orthogonal planes, and you can draw the sketch on any plane that you like for this problem, but we can use the XY plane for right now. I'm going to create a construction line that will be used to essentially generate the overall sketch and act as the axis of revolution for the Revolve command. So to do that, I'm going to come up here to the top and select Construction, select Line, and let's go ahead and draw the line. When you're happy with that, notice that when you draw the construction line, on my screen it's this red dashed line, and then make sure you turn off the construction setting. Alright, so let's go ahead and draw kind of a rough representation of what that part looks like from the side. So that would be something like this. Now remember, we only want to draw half the part. And basically, if you can visualize the mirror image being flipped over this axis at the bottom, that's in fact what we have. It isn't quite drawn to scale, but to fix that, we're going to add some dimensions. And again, recall that we're drawing just the top half of the part, if you will. So this distance, for example, from the center line to this line should be 12.5 millimeters. Okay, we'll add a few more dimensions here. This distance should be 25 millimeters. This distance from here to here should be 12. This distance should be 3. And the outer diameter, this should be 25 millimeters. Rather, this is a radius, I suppose. This should be 25. And I believe that is pretty much it for this part. I'm just giving it a quick scan to make sure that I have all of the relevant dimensions. Oh, I suppose we have to make sure this line here is dimensioned appropriately. This will be 6. Okay, that's it. So now when we're happy with our sketch, we're going to exit the sketch, if I did this correctly, and you can see that it created this profile, and we have sort of an isometric view. And then to create the three-dimensional representation, we're going to click on 3D model and then click on Revolve. Okay, so we see that it selected all of the curves and then this, which is correct. And what we need to do now is select the axis of revolution, which is going to be our construction line. And you can see when we do that, it generates sort of a preview of our part. And if we think this is correct, we can click OK. And then we can see that what we have is in fact our three-dimensional part here. And it looks like it created a surface instead of a solid model. So I probably have an option selected from another part that I created earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this in my case and go back into the Revolve command, and I want to make sure that what I had selected was surface mode. So this should be solid mode. So make sure that this blue rectangle, or cube rather, is selected for this part. And then we're just going to repeat the process again. Alright, so the issue here is I'm getting an error in that it won't generate the part correctly. And notice what I have is sort of an open sketch. You can see I have these 7 lines, and I probably need to draw another line that connects this line, this vertical line, to this vertical line here. So let's do that. So this happens. You make mistakes. You need to go back and correct the error. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to right-click on my sketch and then hit Edit Sketch. And it brings me back to where I was earlier. Now go back to line, and I want to connect this point to this point, and then hit Finish Sketch. So you can see that we're pretty much done. And again, come back to the Revolve command, and you can see now it connects, it essentially shows this blue or green profile that is showing all of the, essentially it's a closed sketch now. So that's our profile, which is shown here. Now we have to select the axis of revolution, and again make sure that the solid mode is active. Select your axis, which is shown here, and there we go. This is our three-dimensional part, and we click OK. So there's your part. Your part is here. Now what we have to do is create the holes and the chamfers per our drawing, and we are finished with this part. Okay, let's add the holes. Now what I want to do is look at this front face sort of straight on. So I'm going to select this left button here. As you can see, using my view cube, that presents me with this face. I'm looking at it directly now. So I'm going to create essentially another circle on this face here, create a new sketch so I can add my holes. Okay, so I'm going to come to Sketch, and it's going to, we want to create a circle in this case. So we can do that, and notice that what we're going to do is we're essentially going to select this face here. So I've created my sketch plane when I do that, and I'm going to create this circle. Okay, and my circle has to have a 40 millimeter diameter. Okay, let's just take a look at that. That looks pretty good. And it generated this other circle in the middle. I'm going to see if I can delete that just so it's not so confusing. Okay, so I'm going to delete that line. Okay, so I have my sketch on this outer face, and I'm going to create some holes. Let's do that. So in the same sketch, I'm going to add some points, and I know that I have points that must reside on this sketch that have to be 12 millimeters from this horizontal axis that is shown here. Okay, so or technically you don't need points. You can probably just go ahead and draw circles at the desired location. So we know that the radius of this circle is 20 millimeters, or the diameter is 40, and we know that these two of the hole locations are 12 millimeters up. So I can pretty much estimate where these holes are going to be, and we know that they're 3 millimeters in diameter. So let's do that. Let's add these 3 millimeter circles, and again we know that the hole itself has to be, I probably have to add another construction line going through to represent a datum. So let me do that. I'm going to add another construction line which goes through the middle of my part. And this should be 12 millimeters. Okay, and I have this circle as being my construction line. Okay, so I turn that off, and let's create another circle on the other side, which is going to be over here. And again, that circle is 3 millimeters diameter, and it is located, again, 12 millimeters is correct. Okay, so, and then we have another circle which is supposed to be, another hole which is supposed to be at the top here, kind of at the 12 o'clock position, same diameter as the other ones. And again, I'm going to add another construction line which emanates from the center of my part, and let us add that hole which is here, and again it's a 3 millimeter diameter hole. Okay, so those are those 3 holes, and I believe they are in the correct positions. And now when we're done with the sketch, we could of course click exit sketch, or I think we could just go to 3D model right now and click on 3D model, and we're going to do an extrude command, but technically it's an extrude cut command. So we're going to go to extrude, and let me just give this some perspective. We want to use this, so notice on your output you have several options, and we want to use the cut command. And what we're going to do is select the profiles that we want to use for the cutting, which would be these circles, and I'm using the shift key to get everything that I want. And I may have selected the wrong one, so let me start over. I'm going to go to extrude, hit profiles, and make sure we're going to do cut. Okay, so we have our holes, and you can see that the software sort of generates a preview of the part, and if we're happy with the preview, and it looks like the holes, as you can see, they don't go all the way through the part. So, because the distance was set to be 10 millimeters. So if we make this 12 millimeters, it should go all the way through. Let's see if they did. Yeah, that looks correct. So if we're happy with this, with our cut, and again, to make the cut, we want to select the circular profiles, we want to select the appropriate cut distance, and then make sure the cut setting is on, and hit OK. So if we do that, notice that we have pretty much the part is completed. We have the 3 holes, and the only thing we have to do now is add the chamfers. Okay, so to add the chamfers, get into 3D model, and come over here to the right, and we see the chamfer window is at the top here. So we're going to select chamfer, and we have several different options for this, the chamfer command. And we can use, I believe we can use the second one, which is in this distance and angle. So if you click on that, I think you can make this, type in 1 degree or 1 millimeter here for the distance, and the angle is going to be 45. So we're going to chamfer this edge and this edge. So let's do this outer edge first. And you can see that it created the chamfer. So to create the chamfer, you essentially have to click two edges or two faces. Let's do that one more time in case you missed that. Let me start over. So to create the chamfer, we're going to use the second option, 1 millimeter and 45 degrees. I'm going to pick this outer surface shown here and this edge, which is highlighted in red here, and then hit OK. You can see it created the chamfer. I'm going to repeat that procedure for this bottom one. I'm going to come back up to chamfer. Again, the same distance and the same angle. I'm going to click this outer surface shown here, this outer face, and this edge shown here, and then hit OK. And you can see when it's all said and done, this is our part. It does have the 3 holes, it does have the chamfers, and it appears to have the right dimensions from front to back. So to summarize, what did we do? We created a 2D sketch, and then via the construction line, we're able to essentially create a 2D closed sketch and then use the Revolve command, and then we added these 3 holes in the chamfers to complete this exercise. So thank you so much for your time and attention today.